So I would like to introduce our first panel members now who are going to come up and they're going to tell you about Blue State Defiance. They represent Indivisible National. Katie, who is the Indivisible Associate Organizing Director, she's been in that role for a number of years. She leads our region in that role, so she is the boss of our regional organizer and others within this region. And we've also got Ayah, who has been a human rights advocate for a number of years. She's done great work on that, and she is the Indivisible Senior Policy Manager. So she's going to tell you about just the policy of Indivisible as a whole.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everyone. So as Patrick said, my name is Katie Guare. I'm on the organizing team, so I work with all of our regional organizers. So your organizer is named Liz Hayes. Has anybody met Liz?
Yeah.
Yeah, Liz. So unfortunately, Liz couldn't be here today, but she sends her regards, so I'm going to do my very best to sub in. And we're going to talk about Blue State Defiance and all of the ways that we can use our power as Blue State residents to, stick it to Trump.
Hello, it's so nice to be here today. I've actually come to Chicago so many times, but I forgot that the rest of the state exists. So this is such a treat. But it's so great to be with all of you. I've actually only been with Indivisible for about 10 months now, but it's felt like 3 years because I do policy work and my portfolio is democracy and voting rights, but everything feels like a democracy issue right now, as we all know. So I want to get a raise of hands. How many of you have already been doing Blue State Defiance work or are familiar with it? Come on. No, okay, after we explain it, you're going to all be raising your hands. You've definitely been doing Blue State Defiance work. So I think contrary to what we believe, we're constantly focusing on the federal process, even when it comes to elections. We're always thinking about voting for the president, voting for congressional members, but we forget about the state. Now, what is Blue State Defiance work? It's pretty much just taking all of your energy and focusing on your leaders within your state. And why is it so important right now? Because as we all know, our federal institutions are actively being weaponized to pretty much progress Trump's authoritarian agenda, which we've been seeing on every level of the federal government, within Congress and everything else. Congress in particular is gridlocked and complicit to Trump's agenda, and we simply cannot wait for some kind of federal fix or rely on it, at least not alone. Congress is good for some things, but your state is actually a lot better on a lot of different things. So we need to be building from the ground up, in and out of Trump era, right? This should be happening under every president, because no matter what happens on the federal level, your state can actually protect you from a lot. Blue states are our firewall, and they have a lot more power than we think they do. And Illinois is a prime example, and we're gonna get to some of your leaders that are actually doing incredible work, in part due to your guys' pressure, but also because you have good, ambitious leaders. So when we talk about state leaders, we're talking about governors, attorney generals, the state legislature, the mayor, the city council members, your counties, so many different layers of our government on the state level that are here to protect you and to serve you, probably a lot more than Congress will, because as we know, Congress is run by billionaires. Correct me if I'm wrong. Here's the thing is, blue states can slow, block, or refuse to implement any kind of federal overreach, and even lead by examples like Illinois leaders. And they can form compacts and alliances like we've also seen happen when Trump was elected the second time. And it's not just defiance in a sense, it's innovation where the federal government continues to fail us, again, in and outside of a Trump era or a Trump presidency. And right now, obviously, the stakes are existential. We're in a crisis. We've completely crossed every red line. And unfortunately, Trump is merely a symptom of the issue, and that's what we're trying to fix, right? Our work isn't going to end when he leaves office, and our work should not begin just simply because he's in office. There's a lot of things wrong with our system nationally and on every state level that we need to be focusing on. So I want to talk about blue state, well, some examples of blue state defiance. For example, when Trump was first elected, right after the election, both Illinois and Colorado governors, Polis and J.B. Pritzker, formed a coalition called Governors Safeguarding Democracy to resist potential federal policies. And I don't know that so much has happened between the two since then, but I know it was at least just to show that we will not just stand idly by while you continue to screw with our government. In Maine, the governor, in the face of Trump withholding school funding as punishment for Maine schools, respecting trans students, refused to back down, prominently telling Trump that she'd see him in court. Woohoo! We love when they challenge him, which a lot of people have been doing. And then New York Attorney General is aggressively suing the Trump administration to protect New Yorkers from the administration's policies and illegal actions, which we've also seen grow increasingly over the last few weeks in particular. But let's go back to Illinois. You guys have a great governor. Do we agree? Like, yeah. I petition to have every governor in the US be like him. He's done so much pre and post Trump election. For one, he's blocked federal access to autism data. He was the first governor to issue an executive order protecting health privacy from federal abuse, which, yes, great. He's defended DEI in education. He publicly resisted federal threats to defund DEI programs and upheld inclusive education mandates, and got sued for it, and continued to do it anyways. On immigration, he has been incredible in the face of Trump's authoritarian immigration overreach. For example, everybody knows the story of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, yeah? Yes. And so he responded by announcing that when he was deported to El Salvador, he responded by announcing that Illinois' state pension funds would divest from El Salvador, essentially boycotting their government because of its role in unlawful deportations. And he also ordered a review of Illinois state contracts for any businesses or any business to go to El Salvador companies. And despite the fact that he has been returned and saved because of this kind of pressure, because of our collective pressure, but also because of governors like him who stood in the face of the government. And he's come home. Unfortunately, he's still being attacked by the government under the most bogus charges. But I think that this kind of pressure potentially saved his life. And he wouldn't be here today if it wasn't because of that. The governor also expanded sanctuary protections pre-Trump. In 2021, he passed the State Act, which expanded sanctuary protections across the state. Woo! So he has been incredible. I'm sure you guys know that, but he is a prime example of what we want from our state elected officials on every single government, for them to take action, for them to protect their constituents, and no matter who's the sitting president or Congress, to say that, like, I'm going to prioritize the people and not big money. So the whole point is that when federal government becomes the threat, which we've seen for quite a long time, again, even before Trump, the state needs to become the shield. And Illinois has proven that they can do that. So now we just need to continue to organize, to expand, and to build statewide defiance network to continue to stand in the face of that. So I'm going to pass it to Katie to talk a little bit about how you can all do that.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about some specific things that we can do. So we're going to give you some examples to get your wheels turning, and then we're going to do some planning as a group and in small groups. Who's excited? So some things that other states have been doing and options that you can consider are demanding a special legislative session on a key topic. So most of us have states that have a legislative calendar, a legislative session that lasts sometimes for only a couple of months. And you can demand that actually you should do your jobs and come back. Sorry, I don't know much about the Illinois state legislature, but certain other states that shall not be named, you know, they work for 6 weeks and then they hang out for the rest of the year. You can also advocate for state-funded legal defense funds. You can support regional compacts to form a united front, like the Governor's Safeguarding Democracy. And another key one is push for race to the top policies. So basically what we mean by this is make your state a good and desirable and safe and pleasant place to live that draws the contrast between blue states and places that are unfortunately having to live under the control of the Republican Party and the MAGA enthusiasts to really draw that distinction. And you can request protections for people traveling from those red states. So a lot of us in blue states have people coming from red states to seek things like abortion care or transgender health care, or immigrants looking for a safer place to live, and you can support protections for those people. And demanding that unlawful ICE arrests get investigated. They're doing a bunch of illegal and immoral crap, so we don't have to just let them do that. We can actually demand that they have some oversight. Okay, so I want to ask the group, so as we stated, you guys have a pretty rad governor, right? So one important thing that we do is backing up. It's really important that we back up our elected officials when they're actually doing stuff that we like and make it clear that they're representing us and not just on their own little personal mission. So what are some ways that you can build on what Pritzker started and ways that you can have his back and cheer him on? Anyone have some ideas or anything that you've been doing already?
Well, he's just announced he's going for a third term. We can canvass for him.
Canvassing for him, yes, absolutely. Yes. Volunteer power is so important for electeds, yeah. Yeah, give him a call and thank him, absolutely. Yeah, let's do one more.
You can become a precinct committee person, and what Pritzker did last time is if counties had 80% of Democrats precincts filled, then you could put them on the county line.
Oh, interesting idea. So sorry, become a precinct committee person. Okay, yeah, get on the local government. Yeah, in the back over here. Letters to the editor. Yes, great one. Make it public. And let's do one more. Oh, were you raising your hand or did you have a cord? Okay. Fidgeter, that's totally fine. Yeah, those are some really great examples. You definitely want to make it public. Letters to the editor are a great example. Posting on social media to show your support. Volunteer power is super important. And I love actually getting involved with your local government. We should all be doing that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to build a statewide campaign. This is the fun stuff. So when we talk about campaign planning, what essentially we're talking about is a plan for all of you to take action together on a single shared vision to get something to accomplish a goal. So first what you want to do is identify what's at stake. So what are federal threats that are imminent or already happening that affect this, your state that leaders can act on? And what existing protections might need some reinforcements. Is there anything that's under threat from the Republicans in your legislature, for example? Second, you want to build a coalition. So this can mean getting others outside of Indivisible groups to help you, to team up with you. And those are usually organizations that share your same values and ensure that rural, suburban, and minority voices are heard and involved. And really we'll want to talk a little bit more about this, but we want to aim for a large percentage of Indivisible groups, all of you, participating in this campaign. And step 3, gauging your key targets in state and local government and who needs to do what. So as Ayah said, that's the governor, the state legislature, the attorney general, city councils, county governments, for example. And then you can develop your action plan and your tools and your messaging, and then you advocate, and don't forget to track, celebrate your wins in order to keep momentum. Go to the next slide. All right, so in a few minutes, I'm gonna break you guys up into groups. I've got some super fun little worksheets for you. And the goal here is to get you thinking like a campaign planner and to start on building a plan that you can all engage in Illinois over the next year, 2, however long we're gonna be doing this work. So it's gonna guide you through some questions to think about. So number 1, what issue are you trying to solve? So you can talk amongst your groups about what issues that you've noticed are coming up in your state or in your town. What's your overall goal on that issue? Go to the next slide. Who are your targets? And by that we mean who's got the power to influence that issue that you can advocate to. And who are your secondary targets? So these might be people who have a lot of influence in your community or in the government, but maybe aren't the actual decision makers themselves. Who are your allies? Who are some potential ally organizations? So organizations that work on that particular issue, could be faith groups in your community, that sort of thing. What tactics will you use? And you can think about that in terms of what would be effective, what would get attention, what do you already have skills in that you can use. So for example, maybe you've got some great writers, so you want to write some op-eds and LTEs. Next one. And what roles do you need to fill? So campaigns take a lot of people power. So what roles are you going to need in order to pull this off? And number 8, your communication strategy. So what do you want the messaging of this campaign to be? How do you distill this down into something that's digestible for everybody? How do you want to communicate about the work that you're doing? And your timeline, setting some benchmarks for your success and what the overall timeline of the campaign looks like, and next steps. And we'll come back at the end to talk a little bit more about that as well. So, at your tables, and remember, this is for practice. You're not going to be held legally bound to these campaigns right now. We want to get you in the habit of thinking like a campaign planner and starting to put this together so that we can keep on refining it after this convening. So I'm going to have you guys break into groups of, I don't know, between 5 and 10-ish people or so. Find a little corner, clump yourselves in your seats, whatever you want to do. And I'm going to hand out these campaign planning worksheets. And I will kind of be, milling about. So if you've got questions that you want to ask, then we can pop in and help you plan a little bit. So break away, and I'll come around and hand out these worksheets. Yes. Oh, and sorry, I forgot to say, we'll do 15 minutes for this, and then we'll come back and wrap up at 11:55. All right, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. Yay! Oh my gosh, thank you everybody so much for just diving into that and just being ready to go and to start planning. How did that go for everybody? Thumbs down, thumb scale. So terrible, I hated it. This was great. This is it. Okay, some thumbs up. That's great. I'll take it. Not enough time. It's okay. We're gonna talk about next steps. So did anybody talk about anything in your group that you thought was a really cool idea, or a question that you guys were that was continually coming up that you want to share? Yeah.
The cool idea is to monitor work sites for ICE.
Monitor work sites for ICE. Love that. Love that. And I imagine that a lot of your communities have websites or social media accounts that they're using to report that too. Yeah. Keeping the federal government out of the education system, kindergarten through college. That's great. Did you come up with any decision makers that you wanted to target or tactic ideas? Awesome. Yeah, so that was school boards, the Board of Education for the state, okay, and the governor, and what was the last one? Congress, yes. Awesome. That's a great idea. Any other ideas? Come up, yeah, over here. Oh, love that. Yeah, so that was an anti-vote buying law, so that modeled after a law that Wisconsin passed to prevent somebody like Elon Musk from coming in and buying a bunch of votes, because that was bonkers. So I love that idea. Did you have one over here? Stop the privatization of the Postal Service. Oh, sorry. Can you guys hear me when I talk into the mic, or do I need to talk louder? Yeah, you know what, I'm going to pass the mic around. We'll do a couple more ideas, and then I'll... Yeah, got it. Any other ideas? I think I saw a couple hands, but I lost them.
Stop privatization of everything, including education, post office, everything.
Love that. Did you come up with any tactic ideas or decision makers for that?
I didn't know what.
Any tactic ideas or who you want to target? Didn't get that far? That's okay. That's okay. I got a hand over here. I'm gonna scoot.
Well, we started with the idea of safety of visitors and how that had to do with people coming into town for abortions and things like that, and how eventually what that could lead to is them actually looking at restricting whether or not we could have our own vaccines and things like that in the state. And we decided that that would actually be something that we wanted to prevent them being able to limit what we could do with our bodies in our state. And we decided that that was something that we wanted to limit. And we talked about how we would want to put together legislation for that and how we would have to go through the legislature and get the medical community behind us and how we would go that way to do it.
That's really, really smart. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Go over here.
Hi, everyone. So one issue that we're trying to solve is there's a resolutions project by Simon Rosenberg and Hopium Chronicles. They put out this resolution that essentially is promoting the separation of powers and just the defense of democracy. So, yeah. Is that, the plan essentially is to use the local groups to harness power to continue to try to just build that coalition together and just try to get other states to go along with it and essentially set aside funds to get activists to be able to execute on this. There are different localities that obviously have different needs and resources, so I think the main goal with our group is to try and get just kind of the small granular pieces tackled first, whatever's reasonable for each locality and region, just more practical based things. So, and then, sorry, I was in the bathroom earlier, so are we talking about the target as well?
Yeah, if you want.
Okay. So the target is really it really depends on each locality. There's a member from our group in Rockford, so it's really challenging because they don't even have a website currently, so it's really specific to each niche. So, but really, one of the first steps we discussed was trying to research different bylaws and groups to see who has sort of the power and influence in these regions to be able to get this on the agenda and just get some clarity on paperwork and dates that we would need to get a better understanding around. And get folks such as city council members involved and local township board members as well. So.
Yeah, and that's a great example that you don't have to be subject matter experts, to create your plan. You can find people who are.
Hi, thank you so much. So our group is really trying to think through two different approaches, one of which was trying to hold those working on behalf of ICE allegedly to prevent them from masking, and also ensuring that they are being held accountable in terms of badge presentation, and then executing their processes in a way that is legal, that is nonviolent, and that follows a specific process, as opposed to what is happening right now. The other thing that obviously comes, I think, into play with the larger those processes is enabling the conditions for those types of arrests to take place, and trying to figure out how to unthink that, rework that, and create and enable conditions that are not going to lead to mass kidnappings. And so part of this is disinformation and the ways that is being circulated in our communities, trying to think through not limiting the distance, but reducing the distance in terms of good immigrants and that larger conversation and the legal way to immigrate. putting humanity, decency, integrity back into standing up for folks who are of mixed household status, who are documented, who are undocumented, whatever it might be, and then trying to enable and mobilize various community organizations, the experts, as Jacob was saying, who may be able to fast-track communications to create a more informed citizenry and therefore a more active citizenry.
Yeah, absolutely. Identifying those allies, love that. Let's do one more.
We identified at least two issues that we'd like to work on. One is we're having difficulty recruiting candidates for local offices. In our local election, we couldn't have a primary. We had to have a caucus because we just couldn't recruit people. And all politics is local, so we have to start locally. And we have a couple of ideas how to recruit people locally. One is to find out who are the most vocal at school board meetings and other meetings like that, see who's active on Facebook and communicate with them and try to recruit them. We are activists here. Think about the term finding proteges, finding people like us and recruiting them. So that's one issue. The other one, we think we would like to leverage, Trump is underwater right now, and we'd like to leverage the animus, the dislike for Trump into the 2026 midterms. How do we do that? And one way to do that, we're finding, looking at others who are doing it, is if you look at the Republicans' Facebook pages, and they're saying how wonderful they are, and they're saving money for this, and they're making America great again, you read the comments, and they are 90% negative. They are people like us saying, you're not going to make America great by getting rid of health care. You're not going to make America great by getting rid of immigrants and arresting people without warrants. So think about communication on social media to counter their propaganda. Don't let their propaganda rise to the top. Counteract their propaganda at every step.
Love that. Awesome. Those are some really, 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 really good ideas. You all are really, really smart. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about some next steps before we wrap up here. So, what do we do with all of these different ideas? How do we narrow things down? How do we actually create a plan as a state? So, I know that a lot of this you're going to be talking about over the course of the day and after the convening. But the first thing you want to think about, or one thing you want to think about, is developing a process for indivisible groups across the state to formally come together on this campaign, whittle it down, and make it official, to fill in the blanks and actually put together your actual official plan. And the benchmark that we usually think about in terms of is about 80% of groups being on board with this, to give you a good number that is representative of the state and represents a lot of buy-in and alignment on the overall plan. And then you can choose, and after you do that, after you know how you're going to make these decisions, then you can start to think about what are the issues, what are the goals that we want to work on together, how do we narrow this down, or how do we split up the work so that we can achieve multiple goals at the same time. And then you can create your campaign teams. So this might be, some states split things up based on issue area, for example. So they might have a team that works on healthcare and another team that works on immigration issues, another team that works on LGBTQ rights, things like that. So you could structure it that way. You could also structure it by state and local and federal work, and have people who are kind of looking and supporting local groups in those areas of work. Lots of different ways that you can do it, but you come together and kind of make those decisions, those process decisions so you can make your plan and start to implement it. I also wanted to flag a website for you called bluestatedefiance.org/blueprint, where we've got a lot of the information that Ayah talked about. I actually wrote most of these materials, so has a lot of the information, a lot of the examples of blue state defiance, and things that states can do to defy Trump, written down in various materials for you that you can access on this website. Definitely recommend that you check that out after the convening. And I think that's it from us. Thank you all so much for diving into this. I know that you're going to come up with a really, really great plan, and we're excited to be here for the rest of the convening with you all. Yeah, did you have a burning question?
Are the ideas that were just presented going to be summarized and published so we can have something?
Yeah, if everybody could bring your worksheets back to me, and if you want to take pictures of them before you do that, or if you want to email pictures of them instead, my email is just katie@indivisible.org, and I'll make sure that they get to the Indivisible Illinois board. Great question. All right, thank you everybody so much.